Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome to this week's card. I saw a really cool fold in the Paper Crafts magazine last month, and so I thought I'd use it with the owl punch this week. So I started with a 5.5 by 12 inch piece of cardstock, and I'm going to score it at 2, 4, and 8. And then I'm going to fold it in so that I have basically 3 panels, and that front one is folded down. I'm going to slow it here a little bit so you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and make my owls, and I use this little container to collect all the different pieces that come out of this punch because you have to do multiple papers. And then I took a snowflake punch from Stampin' Up, and I'm white embossing it on a piece of chocolate chip paper. And then I'm going to punch this out with the coordinating snowflake punch. And to make the antlers, I'm just snipping off the very tips of the snowflake on 4 of the sides because I need something to adhere to the back of the owl to make the antlers stick up from the top. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you the Santa first. So I cut the black piece and the red piece out of the punch. And that way I don't have any problems with my black belt fitting right where it's supposed to. And so I just manually cut out the belt with my scissors. And then I took a white gel pen to create the buckle. For the reindeer, I'm using sparkly fluff, and I've used glue before, but I find that the tape runner adhesive works a lot better because the glue kind of makes the flock a little bit moist, and so it gets clumpy. So I just dump it right on there and I push it in and spread it around really well, and it sticks great. And those are my reindeer bellies. Alright, so I'm going to put together one of these reindeer. So I'm just going to adhere the base there, and then I use my 2A glue pen, and I put the glue on the base, and then I take my paper piercer, and I have a little bit of a stick to the end of that tip there on my paper piercer, and I use that to pick up the little pieces. And then I'll use the 2A glue pen on the front of that snowflake and then just press the owl down on it. For the nose, the red nose, I just cut one of the circle ones out and then I just snipped it off into a triangle shape. And then I turned it upside down and it became the beak. So here's how I'm going to do the Santa hat. I'm just going to manually draw it. So I measure the top of its head, and then, see, there you go, there's a picture. And I'm going to cut it out so that I have, again, just like the snowflake, a piece that hangs down that will adhere to the back of the owl. So again, 2A glue pen right there, and then just press the owl on. And then I've got my Marvy liquid applique, which I used a couple weeks ago on that hot chocolate whipped cream. And I'm just going to spread it out. It's a pen, and so you squeeze it and this liquid comes out, and it does not dry quickly at all, so you have plenty of time. And then you heat it up with your heat tool, and it puffs out. And I tried to get it on a camera, but you really need to be right above it to make it all even because you don't want it to puff out on one side bigger than the other. So as you can see, it puffs up. It's really cool. So now I'm working on my background, and I am taking a piece of 4 by 5.5 inch cardstock, Nina Solar White cardstock, and I'm using Broken China Distress ink, and I'm going to lightly go over the whole thing. And now I'm heat setting it, and the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to be embossing, heat embossing, and if I put powder on distress ink, it actually sticks because the distress ink stays, even though it doesn't seem like it's wet, it actually is wet for quite a while. So because I'm going to be stamping this and putting some embossing powder on there, I wanted to make sure that my blue was all dry. This is one of the stamps in the confetti set from Stampin' Up, and I'm just repeatedly stamping it onto this paper. We're using some Versamark ink. And then I'm going to put some white embossing powder. You can see I've got some stray embossing powder that's still sticking to it, which is fine because I want it to look a little distressed. And then I'm going to go back in with some chipped sapphire. I'm going to darken it up just a little bit. And then I'm going to go around all the edges and get just kind of a little bit of a dark edge there. And then finally I'm going to take some water and I'm just going to spray my hand with it and then flick it onto the paper. And that's it for the background. Alright, so for that front snow piece, I'm going to take a piece of white cardstock and I'm just going to rip it by hand. And then I'm going to measure it out and trim it. And I'm going to create some snow banks by, what I did was I just manually tore a piece of a Post-it paper. And when I first did this card, I used the ink applicator, Ranger ink applicator, but it was just too fat. So I went back in and I'm using now my sponge dauber, fingertip sponge dauber, and it works much better because you have a lot more control over where your color goes. And I'm just going to randomly place my Post-it down and use, this is broken china, and I'm just going to ink the edge. This sentiment is from Polar Party, and I'm stamping that in real red, and I'm using my Stampin' Jig to make sure it lines up just right. And now it's time to put it together, so I'm going to put the snow piece on that front, shorter piece. And then I'm going to take my background and stick it right there in the middle. Then I'm going to place my little characters there and adhere them all on. And that's it. Really fun and sparkly, kind of different. And it still opens up to a regular card, so you can write on the inside. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and have a great holiday. See you next week.